Right. Let's talk about the American dream. That beautiful, shiny promise that if you just work hard, you'll get ahead. It's a lovely thought, isn't it? Like believing a hamster can power a city if it just runs fast enough. The problem is, for millions of young and working people today, that promise feels like a scam. They're told they're lazy, they're told they're entitled, they're told they spend too much on avocado toast, as if a brunch preference is the root cause of systemic economic decay. It's a classic case of blaming the player for a game that was rigged long before the controller was even in their hands. Think about it. We were born into a world where the rules were already written, the board was already set up, and a few players already had all the hotels on Boardwalk and Park Place. We didn't create the 2008 financial crisis, we didn't ship manufacturing jobs overseas, we didn't decide that it was a brilliant idea to deregulate the very industries that hold our livelihoods in their hands. We just showed up, diploma in hand and ready to work, only to find that the help wanted signs had been replaced with good luck you'll need it signs. It's not about a lack of effort, it's about starting a race 10 laps behind, carrying a backpack full of someone else's debt. The narrative that young people are somehow defective is incredibly convenient for those who benefit from the current system. It's a fantastic distraction. While we're all busy arguing about lattes and participation trophies, the real architects of this mess are quietly collecting rent. They point the finger at millennials and Gen Z for not wanting to work, conveniently ignoring the fact that many are working 2 or 3 jobs just to afford a room in a shared apartment. They are working harder than ever, but they are running on a treadmill that's been set to an impossible incline, with the speed dial controlled by a handful of billionaires. So, let's be absolutely clear, the problem isn't laziness, it's not a moral failing, it's a systemic one. We were handed a broken machine and then criticized for not being able to fix it with just our positive attitudes and a can-do spirit. We are the IT support for a computer that was set on fire, dunked in a vat of acid, and then thrown off a roof, and we're being asked why we can't get it to connect to the Wi-Fi. It's an absurd expectation. The system wasn't just broken when we got here, it was fundamentally redesigned to work for a select few, leaving everyone else to fight for the scraps. If you squint at modern life, it starts to look eerily familiar. Not familiar like a comforting old movie, but familiar like a history textbook chapter on feudalism you'd hope to forget. We've essentially been cast in a reboot of the Middle Ages, playing the role of serfs. We don't own the land we live on. We rent it from a landlord, a corporate entity who probably owns 1,000 other properties. We don't own the tools of our trade. We lease our cars for gig work or use company-owned software. We are bound not by loyalty to a lord but by the unbreakable chains of debt, constantly working to pay off obligations we were forced into. This is the reality of modern serfdom. You are perpetually working for someone else's benefit. Your labor builds their equity, your rent pays their mortgage, your monthly payments enrich a vast, faceless financial institution. The promise of ownership, the very cornerstone of the old American dream, has been replaced with a subscription model for life itself. You don't buy software, you subscribe to it. You don't own music, you stream it. And increasingly, you don't own a home, you rent an existence with the terms and conditions subject to change at the landlord's whim. It's a life of profound instability, dressed up in the language of flexibility and freedom. The rules of this new feudalism are everywhere. Try to get a day off when you're sick, your gig app rating might suffer. Need to move because your rent was jacked up by 30%? Good luck finding another place you can afford within a 2-hour commute. Want to start a small business? You'll be competing against a monopolistic giant that can afford to lose money for a decade just to drive you into the ground. We are tied to this system not by law but by a carefully constructed economic reality that leaves us with very few, if any, meaningful choices. It is a cage with invisible bars, but a cage nonetheless. And just like the serfs of old, we are expected to be grateful for the privilege of our own exploitation. We're told to be thankful for the opportunity to drive for 12 hours a day for less than minimum wage after expenses. We're supposed to appreciate the flexibility of a 0-hour contract that offers no benefits, no security, and no path forward. It's a masterclass in gaslighting. We are being sold a life of indentured servitude and told it's the pinnacle of modern innovation. It's not. It's a regression. It's a system where we provide all the labor and they reap all the rewards. There was a time, and it wasn't that long ago, when the American dream was a tangible thing. It was a simple, achievable formula. You could work a single, steady job, maybe at a factory, or as a clerk, or a teacher, And with that one income you could buy a modest home, raise a couple of kids, pay your bills, and even save a little for retirement. My grandfather did it. Your grandparents probably did it. It wasn't a fantasy, it was the baseline expectation for a functioning society. It was the social contract, and that contract has been shredded, burned, and its ashes scattered into the wind. Let's look at the numbers, because they paint a truly staggering picture. In 1960, the median home price was about $11,900, while the median household income was $5,600. The house cost about twice the annual income. Fast forward to today. The median home price is hovering around $400,000, while the median household income is about $75,000. That's a house costing more than 5 times the annual income, and that's before you factor in interest rates that make the total cost astronomical. The math simply doesn't work anymore. The goalposts haven't just been moved, they've been launched into a different galaxy. This isn't just about houses either, it's about everything. A college education, once an affordable stepping stone to a better life, is now a debt sentence that can last for decades. Healthcare costs can bankrupt a family over a single illness. Even raising a child has become a luxury item, with the cost of childcare alone rivaling a mortgage payment. The life that was considered standard and accessible for one breadwinner in the past, now often requires 2 high-earning professionals, and even then, it's a precarious balancing act. The safety net is gone, and the tightrope is frayed. So when people talk about the American dream today, what are they even talking about? For most young people, it's not a goal. It's a piece of historical fiction. It's a story you hear from your older relatives, like a quaint tale about milkmen and telephone operators. The dream of stability, of ownership, of a life better than your parents', has been replaced by a much more modest and frankly desperate dream. The dream of simply staying afloat. The dream of not being one medical bill or one layoff away from complete and total disaster. That's not a dream. That's a nightmare you're trying to keep at bay.